While the Denver Nuggets have struggled to find the gold in them thar hills this season, we've been treated to an all-timer by their starting center. It didn't seem possible he could improve upon his 3 MVP years, but that's exactly what he's done. However, while there have been some areas where he's actually improved, there are others where he's fallen off, and it will no doubt surprise you. So let's go into the details to figure out what's so different about Nikola Jokic. When comparing last year's MVP to this season, the first thing that jumped out at me was his speed in transition. He's getting out on the break a lot more, and we can see that in the difference in miles covered per game. And it's not just running the break from the middle of the floor off the dribble, he's filling lanes and rim running for easy finishes in the paint. This is one area where he and Russell Westbrook have really connected. Russ loves to get going as fast as he can towards the hoop and then find the release valve of the trailing Jokic to finish off the play. He's Westbrook's favorite target for assists, and Jokic has been happy to sprint along for the ride. As a result, the Nuggets have improved from 22nd in transition last year to 10th this year, as their pace has also increased dramatically from 26th in the league to 5th. It shouldn't come as a surprise in the modern NBA when a player starts shooting more threes, and it's something Jokic had always been proficient at, but this year it's been at a whole new level. Russ loves to find him in transition behind the arc as well, where he takes advantage of centers instinctually running back to protect the paint, which leads to wide open shots. Whenever I devise a play in the half court to get a shooter open, I try to have him set a screen first. It's a great way to pull both defenders to the cutter and open up a shot for 3. The Nuggets add a screener for Jokic after he screens for the curl cutter, collapsing the defense and then delaying the closeout long enough for Jokic to think about it for a second before catapulting it into the rim. They try to distract Jokic's man with a pin down for Murray first, but then they can run him off a pin down like Steph Curry gets to the corner. Big men are simply not used to navigating these kinds of screens as Jokic knocks down another good look. Handoffs are a huge part of their offense, and they act similarly to the screens he sets for cutters, as the drop coverage ends up in the lane with Jokic all by himself behind the arc. At least once a game, you'll see him hand it off to Murray, who will get into the lane before kicking it back out to the big man for a wide open jumper. He's a great release valve when Murray gets caught deep on a drive and stuck in the air, knowing he can just toss it safely back towards Jokic for an open shot. His form is conventional for a center back in the 70s, with a set point over his head and a rhythm that delays the release until a split second before his feet get off the ground. This 2-motion shot could be susceptible to tight contests, but as you can see, most of his shots are taken with plenty of room, and he certainly grooved his rhythm extremely well. If you're wondering why his man doesn't contest these shots effectively, it's because Jokic can put the ball on the ground and get to the basket, keeping the defense concerned enough to give him several feet of space. He doesn't need to actually beat his man either. He's so big that if he just gets his shoulder into the defender's chest, they'll go backwards, where he can then rise up into his jump hook with incredible soft touch. He can turn these drives into low post moves as well, and he's so effective at it that I can understand why the defense would cede the 3-point shot versus letting him get this close to the basket. Even if they do guard him to prevent the 3-point shot, look how agile he is on the spin move, and it's over once he gets side by side with his defender. There's no limit to his creative finishes that keep his man out of sync and off balance. It's now time to talk about why the Nuggets' record isn't better, despite Jokic doing something we've never seen an NBA player do before. Averaging a 30-point triple-double is completely unprecedented, and you'd imagine they'd be higher in the standings with their championship pedigree up and down the roster. But there's a dirty little secret that no one is talking about: his field goal percentage in the restricted area. It has completely fallen off a cliff. It's hard to fathom how someone so big and so good for so many years suddenly gets cold from point blank at the rim, but it almost looks like someone has put a lid over the rim as he's failed to concentrate all the way through the shot until it goes in. One reason is because his post-up game has gone downhill in a hurry. What I've seen in the footage is that the refs have allowed more physicality around the basket this year, and he's been slow to adjust. You can see the bigger and more physical defenders getting into his body to create slight imbalances that are just enough to throw these shots off. And it's possible that he's recognized that he's struggling with what the refs are allowing and has been bailing out the defense with fadeaways from farther away that increases the difficulty of these shots exponentially. But there is a benefit to all these extra misses this year: offensive rebounds. His offensive rebound rate has gone up over a point from last year, and though he is struggling to finish these as well, they are extra possessions and opportunities for points that are a net positive for the team. And his percentage from this area is such an anomaly compared to how he usually shoots around the hoop that I have to imagine it will go back up before the season is over. One look at his on-off numbers and it seems clear this is just about his teammates being suboptimal. When he goes to the bench, the offense completely craters. It would be 7 points per 100 possessions worse than the worst team in the league right now. With Jokic off the floor, the main culprit is Russell Westbrook, who has the second highest non-Jokic minutes and is shooting 33.1% from the floor. It's clear Mike Malone was hoping they'd be able to keep the ship afloat when Jokic goes to the bench and let Russ be the offensive driver. But at this stage in his career, teams will just give him the three-point shot in favor of clogging up the lane, but he's also struggled from all over the floor, including finishing layups. He leads the team in usage percentage by a good margin when Jokic is resting, and as the second half of the season unfolds, they're going to have to adjust their lineups a lot better, along with their roles, if they want to improve on their winning percentage and give themselves a shot at a deep playoff run. However, one theme amongst their losses this season is that they'll allow a shooting guard to detonate on them, and a quick perusal of how these guys are getting buckets reveals some evidence of targeting Jokic, typically in the pick and roll. We'll get to more of his defense soon, but you can see in these clips how he is reluctant at times to offer any resistance to shooters, even hilariously trying to take this charge against a hardened runner instead of just challenging the shot in the air. Of course, every center gets scored on multiple times a game, so this isn't anything special for Jokic, but if you're wondering what strategy the good teams will take, here it is. Despite the offense overall being slightly less efficient, Jokic is not only scoring more, but he's also got a higher assist percentage over last year. He gets most of them from the high post, where we're treated to the most clever parts of their offense. The passer to the high post has a choice. He can screen in the corner or to the guard. If the screen is set well, the cutter can get to the front of the rim with an excellent pass. When the passer is a shooter, then the guard will screen for him. But beware, since the screener is the most dangerous person in this whole thing. Porter Jr. gets the focus, but Gordon catches Wade on the high side after the switch, leading to the dunk. What I love about their offense is its continual flow. If that screener isn't open on the back cut, they just run another split on the weak side. Murray draws both defenders as the cutter, so Porter slips right to the basket for an easy jump hook. Here's their pistol set with a handoff into ball screen, which is all just a setup so they can get it to Jokic at the right elbow. This split action in front of him is tough because Jokic is one dribble from the hoop, the screener is a quick cut for a layup, and Porter is coming off to his left for an easy shot from three. They don't even have to set the ball screen after the handoff, just skip it to the high post from the wing. Murray can then sell the screen for the passer before slipping it to the basket, and Jokic will always make this pass on time and on target. They also love utilizing horns with a double high post with a variety of ways to get cutters open with a cleared lane. Putting Murray on the elbow makes the defense think he's coming around for a handoff, but if the cutter is open first, it's a dunk. And if they try to switch to take away the cutter, then the screener should be open with the defender on his back and they get the same result. If the defense does a better job by switching this action, no worries, Christian Braun just sets a random screen, but the purpose is to catch Harden out of position so he can back cut with the excellent backhanded bounce pass finding him for the layup. The biggest difference in the Nuggets' offensive attack has to be in pace. They went from a slow, plodding, half-court setup team last year to one that runs almost as much as anybody in the league. Once we get a handle on why, it could give us some special insights into the game that could help you immensely when getting in on all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's that time of year, sports fans, with tons of sports from pro football to college basketball to hockey. Best of all, use my code BBALL24 as a new customer and you'll get $150 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet of your own. So, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use my code BBALL24, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets with just that $5 bet. Happy holidays from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Jokic has been a big part of their fast break attack, and he's been scoring at an elite level, as we showed earlier by stepping into some threes as a trail, as well as rim running while beating his man down the court. We can see that his average speed on offense has increased, and that has led to a big increase in their transition ranking from last year. However, one reason why their average on the break is because Jokic leads the league in turnover percentage, and it isn't even close. He's never struggled this much, and there doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason to how he gives the ball back to the other team, throwing long down-court passes, getting ripped off the dribble, and fumbling the ball. It's been an absolute mess, and there's no better momentum killer than to gain the advantage on a fast break with a great chance at a score, only to turn it over and let the other team come back down for an easy score. You have to imagine he's been too good at this game for too long to keep this up at such a high turnover rate, but for now, can you hear me shaking my head? Let's take a look at his defense, since that has been an area of criticism his whole career, and I don't think it's that warranted. Of course, he will absolutely be targeted in the pick and roll, with opponents spamming the ball screen with whomever he happens to be guarding. And this is an issue with any big center that is average in mobility and will play drop coverage. So expect to see teams in the playoffs generate some good looks out of this action. However, there is plenty of evidence of Jokic being able to successfully contain guards that try and attack him, since he's very good at cutting off angles and showing his chest to the ball handler to avoid too many fouls. And while his mobility is average, he will surprise you with some good ISO defense into a contest that can force misses, so this becomes less of a liability than most people think. And the thing that he's best at is getting steals when teams try to attack him in the ball screen. If a ball handler gets too close, he's got fast hands and, based on his own pick and roll IQ, can anticipate the pass as well as remove the angle of attack better than most centers in the NBA. So, teams might think twice about penetrating on him and slipping short roll passes to the screeners, since he's a real thief that can take what seems like an advantage for the offense and make it into a weakness for them. While he doesn't block a ton of shots, something fascinating I notice about them is how often he regains possession of the ball. These aren't attempts he's firing into the stands with a finger wag. He definitely knocks them out of the shooter's hand and retrieves the loose ball to effectively turn these into turnovers. I'd argue these are almost more like steals than blocks, especially when he strips the shooter on the way up, and it's just another example of his genius on both ends of the floor. So make no mistake, we've never seen anyone in the NBA ever average numbers like this. They are simply outrageous, and on any given night, he can put up even higher stats. But we also can't ignore how his post-up and putback numbers have dipped while just throwing the ball away at an alarming rate on the fast break. The good news for Nuggets fans is that it's likely he cleans up some of these deficiencies, and that means his numbers will go up even higher than they are now by the end of this season. Which leads us to the question, is that going to be enough to get them higher in the standings and deeper in the playoffs? As it stands right now, without an upgrade to the roster through a trade, I just don't think they've got enough all around to get past the second round of the playoffs, even if and when Jokic turns in the greatest offensive season ever.